Our Story Production presents The Road to Our Story, spotlighting an in-depth look at many of The Road to Our Story magazine's featured articles. So get ready, for you're about to travel on The Road to Our Story.
Hello, I'm Jason Howland, and welcome to Speaking of Health, the place to help you learn how to live a longer and healthier life. You know, earaches can be a common problem, especially for young children. But what causes earaches, and what's the best way to treat them and prevent them from occurring in the future? Joining us today is Dr. Majestic Tam. He is a ear, nose, and throat specialist from Mayo Clinic Health System. Dr. Tam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Well, in order to understand earaches, why don't we begin with the makeup of the ear and how it exactly allows everyone to hear?
Sure. So, Jason, sound waves typically get conducted through the ear canal and then hit the eardrum, and the eardrum amplifies the sound through three little bones in the ear called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup, or the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, and then that amplifies sound through the cochlea as a sound wave through fluid into electrical signal into the brain. It's divided into the outer ear, which is the ear canal, the eardrum, the middle ear, which is the space which holds the bones, and then the inner ear, which is the cochlea and the nerve to the brain.
So how common are earaches, and what are some of the possible causes?
Sure. Earaches are very common. It makes up a majority of a lot of our practices. They can be caused by many different things. Some of the more common causes are, we can divide them into outer ear infections, or better known as swimmer's ear, middle ear infections. A lot of younger children get them, and inner ear infections.
So let's start with the outer ear infections, the swimmer's ear.
Sure.
What is that? Is that just for swimmers?
No, not at all, actually. I think it was given that name because it was common in swimmers, because as you get when you get fluid or moisture in the ear and it gets trapped there, it provides a very good medium or a place for bacteria to grow and cause an infection. Basically, you can get swimmer's ear just from moisture in the ear in the warm weather, or if you get water trapped in the ear, either from even just taking a bath or swimming, things like that. And things that compound the problem would be if you damage the ear canal, either by sticking something in there or through some trauma. You have a cut, bacteria can get in there, and that's essentially swimmer's ear, and you can get swelling, pain, bleeding, infection in the outer ear.
And so how do you treat swimmer's ear?
The most common treatment would be ear drops, I would say. Typically, if the ear swells a lot, we can put in a little, what we call an earwick, which would provide stenting the ear open from closing completely, because you can get a lot of swelling and it's a small space in there. And then sometimes if it's severe, we can put people on oral antibiotics as well.
So how about infections of the middle ear? When we think of ear infections, that's probably what we're familiar with, especially parents, right?
Correct. So middle ear infections are very common, especially in younger children, but we do see them in adults as well. It typically occurs after a cold or upper respiratory tract infection. It's more common in children because the eustachian tube, which is a tube that connects your ear, the middle ear, to the back of your nose, which can drain the fluid sometimes. In children, it's flatter and it's not as wide, so gravity can't pull the fluid out as easily, and it's narrower as well. Typically, again, as I said, it happens after a cold. So symptoms you can get are plugging sensation in the ear, fullness in the ear, pain, loss of hearing, sometimes even ringing in the ears. You might hear some crackling and popping in the ear.
And that's all caused just from fluid buildup?
Yes, it can be fluid. It can be, if it gets infected, if the fluid gets infected, it can be pus sometimes.
What can you do for treatments, especially for the young kids?
Typically, we give a lot, oral antibiotics are given. Sometimes that will treat the problem. If that does not treat the problem, or if it's a chronic problem, meaning there multiple ear infections over a period of time, we do offer ear ear tubes, and that basically will cure the ear infections, the middle ear infections.
And what do you mean by ear tubes?
Ear tubes are a very simple surgical procedure. Basically, we make a small incision in the eardrum, and that will drain the fluid, and we put a small plastic tube in that incision, and that keeps the incision open so that when there is a buildup of fluid, the fluid can drain, and it also acts as it equalizes the pressure between the outer ear and the middle ear, so it prevents infection.
All right, Dr. Tam, how about babies that get earaches? I know we talked about small children and adults.
Sure.
What about babies that get a lot of earaches? Can there be a cause for that or ways to prevent that?
Yes, one of the big things is to not bottle feed your baby in the lying down position. That has been shown to kind of cause earaches, possibly because the milk or the formula is being pushed up into the ears through the eustachian tube, and that can cause infection in the ear. I know there's been a movement for quite some time now with breastfeeding, and breastfeeding actually has been shown to prevent earaches and ear infections in some children, possibly from passing on immune system antibodies from the mother to the baby. So if that is something that mothers would consider, that would definitely help as well.
And when you talked about surgery in the ear tubes, is there a certain age minimum requirement for that?
No, actually there isn't. It's a very safe procedure. It's very quick, and we do a lot of them. I would say that a lot of people worry that there's long-term damage from the ear tubes and the surgery, and I would say that there really isn't. Once the tube typically comes out on its own, and once it's out, the eardrum heals normally, and there's really no hearing loss or any long-term damage. Obviously, there are exceptions if there are multiple sets of tubes needed over time, then you can get a little scarring. But in general, it's a very, very safe and easy procedure.
So they actually come out on their own?
Correct.
And how long of a time period are they in there?
I would say on average about a year. Sometimes a little sooner, sometimes they're in a little longer. They're very safe to be in the body, and they typically come on their own, and you don't even notice it.
What advice would you give parents with young children? They get an earache. Obviously, it's pretty common. Is maybe the first bit of advice is just to wait and see?
I would say that if there's suspicion that there's an ear infection, I would say definitely get it looked at by either us or their pediatrician. And if there's suspicion that there is an ear infection, I would definitely recommend possibly a course of oral antibiotics to see if it clears. And if it doesn't, then definitely have a conversation with one of us about ear tubes, possibly if it's becoming a chronic problem.
Dr. Tam, what about the eardrum? Can the eardrum get infected?
Absolutely, Jason. I think that the eardrum infection is called myringitis. It is inflammation of the eardrum, exactly as we were saying, and it can be caused by a couple different things. Infection of the ear canal can actually move down onto the eardrum. It can also be caused by trauma to the eardrum, such as a hole or perforation of the eardrum. Common symptoms of this would be bleeding from the ear. You can have drainage such as pus or fluid from the ear, and also pain, hearing loss, sometimes ringing and dizziness as well. If you're having an ear infection and all of a sudden some of the pain goes away, that may be because the eardrum has ruptured and now you've drained some of the fluid.
And can that eardrum heal? It sounds pretty dangerous when you're talking about the eardrum rupturing.
Right. The eardrum is very resilient. Actually, it heals quite well on its own, given a little bit of time. And if the cause of the rupture or the cause of the infection is treated, it will heal on its own, typically. And we would probably give ear drops and possibly an oral antibiotic to treat that.
Is an inner ear infection the same thing as, or something similar as a ruptured eardrum?
No, those are two different things.
Okay.
A ruptured eardrum is typically caused by either trauma from an accident or something, or someone sticking like a Q-tip, or trauma from an outside object being placed in the eardrum. And that would be considered either an outer ear or middle ear issue, depending on if there's an infection involved. the inner ear is past the hearing bones and deeper than that. And typically you would not get an inner ear infection from a ruptured eardrum.
All right, so let's talk prevention. What's the best way to prevent earaches? Sometimes they're just going to happen, but
Right.
but what are some ways that folks can prevent earache?
A couple of environmental things I think to start with are very important. One is secondhand smoke or smoking. Is a very common cause of earaches, especially in children who are exposed to secondhand smoke. Hand hygiene, just general hygiene and keeping your hands clean, not sticking your fingers in your ear, especially working around like dirt and farm and things like that. Keeping your ears dry is actually a very important thing. If you know you're going to be around moisture, water, use an earplug. Or if you know you got water in there, then you can use a hairdryer to dry it out. And those are kind of some of the main things that I would recommend.
What about ear candling? I've heard about ear candling. What exactly is that, and is it safe?
I would definitely not recommend ear candling. I think that there have been studies that have shown that ear candling is not effective and not safe.
And what is it? What is ear candling?
The thought behind ear candling is using candle wax to place the candle wax in the ear canal, and the thought is that the candle wax will suck out the wax when it dries up and it falls out, and that's the thought behind it. But I, again, highly would not recommend doing that.
Yeah, it sounds kind of a little bit dangerous when you're talking about hot stuff into the canal of your ear.
Exactly.
What about Q-tips, cotton swabs, those kind of things? A lot of people like to keep their
Sure.
ears clean, get the earwax out of their ears using Q-tips or other items.
Right.
What do you recommend when it comes to that?
As an ear, nose, and throat physician, I would not recommend Q-tips. I know that a majority of people do use them, and people use them in different ways and to different extents. I'd say that in general, we do not recommend using Q-tips because that Q-tips are probably the number one cause of trauma to the ear canal and also possibly even puncturing the eardrum. It's quite painful if that does happen, and not only that, you have very fine hairs and skin in the ear canal that when you're using the Q-tip you can damage that, and that can actually disrupt the mechanism the body uses to get rid of the earwax normally. And on top of that, if you break the skin with the Q-tips, you're more prone to getting infections in the ear.
So folks that do use that or do use ear candling, but they want to clean the wax out of their ears, what's the best way to do that?
Two things mainly I'd recommend. Well, three. One is leave it alone. Typically, your body is geared towards moving the wax out on its own and getting rid of it. Your body is actually very good at it. The problem is when we try to help it, and it actually disrupts the mechanisms that our body uses. The second thing I would recommend is using any oil. Mineral oil is a good example. We can just use a small dropper, put some drops in there. Now, it won't come out right away, but what it does is it softens the earwax, and it makes it easier for the body to clear. You can also use some half peroxide, half water, ear drops as well, or to flush the ears occasionally. Within the comfort level of the person doing it, I would say typically we do a lot of ear cleanings as well. So, if there's any discomfort or if the comfort level is not there in cleaning the ears, we'd be happy to clean out the ears.
But for the most part, I guess what you're saying is the earwax is there for a reason. What reason is the earwax there?
Correct. It's absolutely correct. The earwax is actually a very protective thing that our body makes. It's actually called cerumen, and it's kind of like body oil in a way in our ears, and it hardens and it prevents bacterial growth. It changes the environment that bacteria don't like to grow in, and also it's a combination of some of the dead skin that your ear is trying to get rid of as well. So it's actually good that it prevents, it's a infection prevention mechanism as well.
So not only folks that are going in there and taking that earwax out, not only are they taking something out that is helping them, but they're also risking injury.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that your earwax is there for a reason, and it's good. Obviously, there are cases where, when it can build up and it needs to be removed, if it's causing like hearing loss or problems, then, absolutely needs to be removed. But for the most part, earwax is healthy.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're all out of time, but I'd like to thank our guest today, Dr. Majestic Tam, for joining us today on this great topic of earaches and ear infections. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jason.
Have a great day, everyone, and be healthy.
There you have it, folks. One of the favorite stories ripped from the pages of The Road to Our Story magazine. Let's have a look at another.
Good day, I'm Charles Kornrolt, and this is Tuesday afternoon. Today we have a very special show for you, for we're going to take a closer look at a television program distributed by Our Story Productions, highlighting the lifestyle that's led in the small towns of our state. Our Story Productions, or OSP, has long believed that the life that we lead in the small towns needs to be shared. We often hear that the rural way of life is dying. OSP believes that our way of life is merely changing, and they aim to innovatively embrace these changes while preserving the incredibly unique heritage of rural life. OSP is planning to add additional television shows specially designed to highlight all the points of interest in towns of our state that have a population of 25,000 or less. This is a big project, and to make this happen, OSP has teamed up with a television station located in the county of Sweet Swine. To tell us more about this venture, welcome via satellite the owner of KLUK TV, Cousin John. Welcome, Cousin John.
Hey, thanks, Charles. It's really great to be here.
So tell me, Cousin John, about this exciting venture that you have entered into with Our Story Productions.
Well, Charles, we at KLUK TV, we've long been promoting the little happenings around the little towns in Sweet Swine County. So when Our Story Productions approached us, we took a good look at our neighboring communities, and it was clear that the big stories were actually happening in the towns and communities outside Sweet Swine County.
So, Cousin John, can you share with us who's going to be doing these reports?
Oh, yeah, I'm proud to tell you that we have over 50 Sweet Swine County citizens combing the small towns in our state in search of the next big story. We've got reporters covering, festivals and events. We even have tourists and, yes, even celebrities from Sweet Swine County covering points of interest in all the small towns around. Can we show the folks a couple examples?
Sure, let's do that.
Shh! I was just about to take a picture of a rare loggerhead shrike. Well, it looks like my camera's full anyway. I guess I did get a little snap happy when visiting this great Midwestern town yesterday. Here, have a look for yourself.
Pipestone County. Serving as the county seat of Pipestone County, Pipestone, Minnesota has a population today of about 4,350 and is nationally recognized as the site of the Pipestone National Monument.
Louis! Louis! Now, where did that man go? I have to get the KLUK mobile truck because there is a breaking story I simply must cover. Well, while I'm waiting, I might as well share my most recent report with you, my adoring fans. Get ready to get egg-cited. It's time for Gaylord, Minnesota's famous Egg Stravaganza celebration on August 10th and 11th.
Hello, I'm Ronnie P. Silage, Poet Laureate of Sweet Swine County. However, you know me today as your almost breaking news reporter. And today, we're here in the small town of Wabesso, Minnesota to report on today's tremendous event. What? Oh, it's not happening today. It's happening in June. Wabesso is a small town of about 650 people.
That was incredible, Cousin John. I see that your citizens do a great job of covering things to see and do in our small towns. So tell us, where will these reports be seen?
Well, Charles, our television station has talk shows also done by the citizens of Sweet Swine County, and many of those are already aired in parts of the state by Our Story Productions. Now OSP has committed to air our talk shows throughout the entire state on cable and public access stations.
Well, that's great. Cousin John, what exactly takes place in these talk shows?
Well, they're just like you'd expect. Our talk shows have interesting guests from the small towns throughout the state. And of course, they feature all the reports done by our citizens. You know, I brought a couple examples of the talk shows. Would you like to take a look at those?
Sure, that's great. Let's take a look.
Our Story Productions presents the Cockover Morning Show, where we weed out the big stories from throughout Sweet Swine County with Bobby Ray and Sally Sue.
Oh, thank you, and welcome to another Cockover Morning Show. And Bobby Ray, it's so good to have you back.
You may not know this, but I am a history buff.
You're a history buff?
Oh, yeah, I sure
Really?
am. Oh, yeah. You know, I went over to Murray County
Okay.
in the town of Fulda.
Oh, nice town.
Fulda's
Nice
a beautiful
town.
little town.
Oh, yes,
And
nice
I'll
town.
tell you what, they've got history, and I took some notes.
Hi everyone, I'm Prairie Ann and welcome to another exciting episode of the Women of Sweet Swine County, where we share what's happening inside and outside Sweet Swine County. And I think you're all going to be surprised too, because guess who's back with us today?
Yay.
Paris and Nicole.
Of course.
Where have you been? I know where I've been, but where
Everywhere.
have you been?
We've been everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't you know? You probably weren't asked, but we were asked to go and visit like different towns in the area to find like potential guests that could come on our show.
Live from Sweet Swine County, where every day is sweet, it's Split Hoof Tonight with Billy Gates and the Broken Windows Band. Hi, I'm Earl Silo, and now let's welcome Sweet Swine's one and only Cousin John.
Hey, folks, thanks a lot for joining us again tonight. Welcome to another fine episode of Split Hoof Tonight. But before I get going, Earl, got a special KLUK TV news announcement. The third annual Sweet Swine County Psychics Fair has been canceled.
Why is that?
Well, it's due to some unforeseen circumstances, I guess.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring out this morning's guest.
Yes.
From the county of Rock, in the city of Laverne, we'd like to welcome Terry Golden.
Welcome.
Good to be here. Welcome, Terry. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Yes.
My pleasure.
I understand that you're with an organization called Honor Flight. What is that?
Honor Flight is a national program that covers the entire country, and our sole goal is to bring World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the memorial.
Ladies and gentlemen, join us in welcoming from Scott County, Minnesota, in the town of Jordan. Please welcome Maureen Carlson. Hi, Maureen. How are you today?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
Good, good, good.
So I have to ask this question. No, I absolutely love what you're wearing, but do you show up to every interview, every outing dressed like this?
I
actually do.
I think it's beautiful.
I actually do.
Paris.
I was kind of going to ask you the same, but you know, I think we all have a taste for what we wear, and I love the woods, and I'm a storyteller. And so I go to schools, and I do public speaking, and I've worn this all over the country.
Please join me in welcoming from the county of Wabasha, in the city of Wabasha, we have Jeff Worrell, and he is the executive director of the National Eagle Center. Let's welcome Jeff. I'm very good. Good to see you.
See you, Earl. How are
Please
you?
have a chair. Oh, hey, Jeff. Thanks for coming along. And who have we got here? Let's introduce us.
This is Harriet. This is our most famous eagle at the Eagle Center. She's 29 years old.
29.
29 years old. She's famous. She's appeared all over the country. And I have to say, I think this is probably the highlight of her career. You know, she's been on the Today Show.
Well, yeah.
She's been on the Tonight Show.
Small potatoes.
Colbert Report, the Bonnie Hunt Show. But this is by far, this is the tops.
That was impressive, Cousin John. I see that you host one of those shows.
Oh, I sure do, Charles. I've had a lot of fun with that. You know, and I'm proud to share with the folks that we also produce a news show, a game show, a cooking show, and we even have a soap opera.
So tell me, Cousin John, how many reports do you expect to feature on your shows?
Well, our agreement with OSP is that our citizens will present 1,000 reports about the points of interest located in all of our small towns.
So, Cousin John, tell me, if I have this right, Our Story Productions, with the help of you and the citizens of Sweet Swine County, will be producing a television show that highlights 1,000 points of interest located in the small towns of our state, then air them on cable TV throughout the entire state?
You are correct, sir.
Impressive. Well, thank you, Cousin John, for sharing this exciting project with us.
Oh, I'm glad to do it, Charles.
Wow, and there's more. We contacted OSP to see if they would be coming on the show to explain the features that would be available on their website. Unfortunately, they were unable to appear today, so we asked Almost Breaking News reporter Ronnie P. Silage from Sweet Swine County join us via satellite and share what he knows about the website. Ronnie, welcome to Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, Charles, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you, Ronnie. Well, we're glad to have you here. I have to tell you that I am a big fan. For those of you who don't know Ronnie, he's well known as one of the stars of the soap As the Corn Grows, field reporter for Almost Breaking News, and poet laureate from Purdue University here in Sweet Swine County. I was not aware that you were an expert on websites.
Oh, well, shoot, Charlie. You know, people, my public, they just don't realize how many talents and how many interests I have. What, like, between you and me, one of my great interests is Prairie Ann. Oh, Prairie Ann, your giddy-up got me.
Now, Ronnie, before you share a poem with us, could you possibly tell us about our Stories website?
Well, sure. So, here's the deal. When you first call up that website, okay, that's www.ourstorymn.com, you're going to see every episode of every show we've ever done on the site. Okay, so that if you go over here to the right side of the screen, what you're going to see is this pull-down box, and it's going to have every town and every county we've ever done any video report on, okay? So here's the cool thing. You can just tap on the map page for all these little towns, which is a great start because if you don't know where they're located, you can't get there to enjoy all this stuff, and so that's the beauty of this, okay? So, Charlie, I wanna get on here with my first poem. Oh, Prairie Ann, your giddy-up got me from the get-go.
Now, Ronnie, is there anything else that we should be knowing about the exposure that our small towns will be getting on the web?
Well, of course, as we've said, every town and every county is represented with a web page on the website. Okay? And so every town and every county through their official websites can link into the Our Story webpage, and there will be all the video reports and information for everybody to see about all the events and festivals and points of interest in those communities. It's amazing! And of course, OSP is going to put all those video reports on YouTube and Facebook and you name it. Oh, Prairie Ann, your giddy-up got me from the get-go. Branding our...
Now, Ronnie, I want to thank you for bringing us up to date on Our Stories website.
Yes, well, thank you, Charlie, but anyway, here's my poem.
No, thank you, Ronnie. Thanks again, though. Well, there you have it. As Ronnie P. Silage said, our small towns will finally get the exposure that they so richly deserve to promote their lifestyle in a unique and entertaining manner. This has been Charles Kornralt on Tuesday afternoon.
Prairie Ann. What about OSP is going to put everything. Take two. Here we go. Oh, Prairie Ann. Okay, can we do that again?
No, but thank you, Ronnie. Well, there you have it. Is Ronnie Pig... I blew it.